Welcome back, this is Tucker. Let's talk weather. Big change is coming in the weather pattern, and we'll talk about what that means for you over the next 2 weeks. Flooding is still a big part of our forecast too, where it's the biggest threat looking forward. Finally, a look at the tropics and when the next hurricane threat is most likely to emerge. Good to see you all back here again, and if you're just tuning in, happy to have you here. Yeah, I was talking to my sister earlier today about our favorite months, and my favorite months are definitely the summer months, which is not going to fare so well for me. That's a little sneak preview of what we're going to be talking about. But let's jump into the forecast, the big change in our weather coming right now. And of course, let me know where you're watching from. And if you have a personal forecast request, I got you in the comments. I'm going to take you to North America here to start things off. Although actually you're probably watching from North America, but you know what I'm talking about. So here we have our air masses in the atmosphere. And essentially these blue colors indicate the colder air masses. These orange colors indicate the warmer air masses. Let me explain what's going to happen here, and you can sit back and watch. And what I'm going to be looking at as we head into the end of August and especially the start of September are a couple big players. The first, it's already here, and if you're on the eastern half of the United States, it probably feels a little more September-like already, maybe even like October in some of these mornings. That's because we have this cooler air mass out play. In the west, it's not particularly chilly or hot relative to average, but it is certainly warm, and that's that warmer air mass that extends into Canada in play. As I move this into the beginning of September, you begin to see a really interesting pattern unfold here. We have this area of warmer temperatures and generally high pressure, and that's centered pretty close to Alaska. Now, high pressure, it spins clockwise, so here's what it's going to do. It's going to help to force this colder air that's in the Arctic right now. You see that right there in the Arctic Circle. It's going to help to push it south, and what we're going to see in the first week of September is that Arctic air mass begin to spill into the United States. You see those two blue colors sort of coming together? That's basically, or it's like if you have two raindrops and they kind of connect. That's how I relate to it, at least. That's our water, basically, our cold air, rather, spilling into the United States here. And this is occurring on September 4th and 5th. And you're going to see it once it gets in. It's not going to stay forever, but it is going to stick around for about half of that first week of September before we begin to see it ease up a little bit. But even as it eases up, I believe we're still going to have cooler than average temperatures in here. Despite our weather model showing some warmer air masses, I do believe there is still room for this to split the middle, and we're looking at an early taste of fall for sure. We can take a look at temperatures on the ground here, and specifically the anomalies, how they compare to normal. Of course, the blue colors indicating colder than average air relative to normal, and as we move through the end of August, you're seeing most of the US is on the cool side here. Now, once we get into the first week of September, we do see warm air try to get in, but here's where that Arctic air spills in. And we're talking about temperatures that may be running about 20 degrees or more colder than average between about the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th even, and 7th and 8th possibly as that air mass begins to settle in on the East Coast after first arriving. But even after that, remember I said I still believe we're going to be cooler than average. You can see generally cooler than average temperatures prevailing even as we get into the middle of September. And for a brief overview of high temperatures to put things in context here, we're sitting in the 70s and 80s, even hundreds. It'll be very warm out west. I will say that's the one exception. I should mention the Northwest and really the Southwest too stay warmer than average during this period of time. Relative to the rest of the country, big difference. But as we move this into that 4th through 8th and 9th time window, you're looking at high temperatures here that may be stuck in the 50s across a lot of the upper Midwest, 60s across a lot of the eastern United States, or at least low 70s. And that's possible, that cooler air, as far south as the Carolinas with highs in the 70s, which is on the, I wouldn't call it chilly, but cool side for this time of year. And ultimately, this early fall feel is what's going to be playing out as we take a look at the next week or so. Actually, I should say the next 2 weeks or so. I'm just a summer weather guy. I don't want to think about that here this early. Here's what I will think about, though. The fall foliage. And just in case you're curious, here's the forecast from Explore Fall. You can see these areas highlighted in blue. Those are the Rocky Mountains. They see color in September. The rest of the U.S. still expecting it to be here early, though. Early October across the northern tier, we were seeing those darker greens. And certainly, this would be a little bit early, too. Getting into the later days of October, it's pretty far south, working its way across the country. So some good news to look forward to here. You want it to be dry and sunny, by the way, to get the best colors. And for a lot of the country, actually, we're looking pretty good, at least in the medium range through the middle of October. Quick note, guys, if you're not already subscribed, you're going to get the no hype forecast from me, and that's hard to find on the internet. So consider doing so. Now I want to get to heavy rain and flooding potential, and we've been talking about how the Rocky Mountains, with that warmer air in place, are going to see day after day with storms. And while the flash flooding risk is low, it's always something to pay attention to in higher elevation. I also want to mention we have this low pressure system here and a pretty good slug of rain out ahead of it. This is going to have impacts as it's moving from the Rocky Mountains into the southeast here before it eventually gets offshore. But that's something to watch, especially moving into our Friday. And you can see again that massive yellow colors, that's all heavy rain, along with the rain you're seeing in the Rockies. Those are storms popping up in the afternoon. Here we are on Saturday, more rain in the southeast, more storms popping up over the Rockies, and we're going to have a couple rounds of potential rainfall in the Midwest through the weekend and into the start of next week. Really in this corridor here, that's where we're going to have some more flooding potential, just because we have a couple systems that get stuck. Not a lot of jet stream to move them along, so something we'll be paying attention to. Otherwise, it is going to be quite dry on the west coast. We got high pressure keeping things clear out there, and quite dry in the northeast. High pressure out there too. Might be some crunchy lawns, but really nice days to get outside as we get into this holiday weekend, of course. And before we move on, our flash flooding risk from the Weather Prediction Center. Anything in the Rockies in play because we have those storms, a little bit of a higher chance near the Denver metro, and then we have our best chance where that system is slowly moving into the southeast. This is Thursday. On Friday, it's a lower chance, but it's present across many of the areas we spoke about. And then here on Saturday and Sunday over the weekend, that threat's going to be a little bit greater down towards some of these drier places in the south central U.S. with, this chance likely going to be greater in the Midwest with that slow-moving system and just general thunderstorms keeping it busy in the southeastern U.S. as well. Now we're going to take a look at hurricanes, but just to end this on a good note, we do need the rain in the Mountain West. So the storms, not all a bad thing. Okay, now let's talk about more storms in the form of hurricanes coming up. Now, it's no secret, it's kind of quiet in the Atlantic right now, so we're going to look farther ahead, kind of like we did with temperatures, and I'm just going to give you an idea of what I'm seeing and when our next threat may come. Now, we're going to start with a look at Fernand, which is out here. I didn't know my pen was yellow, but there it is, beginning to die out and move into the Atlantic. That's really not a big deal anymore. Now, as we continue to push this forward, I will highlight one area that I'm keeping an eye on, and it's as we get into here, the beginning of September. Notice that we have some activity showing up off the coast of Africa. This is in the main development region, as we say, so whenever there's some activity out there, it is noteworthy, and this is going to pop up here again, around September 1st through 3rd. I will also add, I don't expect this will develop into a tropical system, but I can't completely rule it out. We could get a weak tropical storm that forms off the East Coast in the first week of September as well. I don't expect major impacts from that, but it is something to at least monitor. And you'll want to check back because I keep a closer eye on that. I think a lot of people aren't focusing on that, but it's something to watch. More importantly, our main development region, you'll see here as we go through the first week of September, our weather models are actually pretty bullish on something forming. Now, if that's a hurricane or not, it's hard to say right now. The big player here, though, along with that area of storminess, let me circle it with my black pen here, there's our high pressure system, and that's going to try to steer this thing south. But there is enough room for it to escape north again, and the question, while it is far from being answered at this point, will be similar to what we had with Aaron. Does it skirt away, if this does form, into the Atlantic, or does it continue moving east? Now, the concern here is that you can see our high pressure system at this point has moved a bit farther to the east as well. And if this is what plays out, then this system here, although not as prevalent at this point, would be a very certain threat to land. It's a ways out, but it is something to at least monitor at this point. I would not be worried about this at all right now. We still have to see if it develops, if it forms, but if it does, there is a signal that this high pressure system is going to keep it farther south, and that's not what we want to see. So in the meantime, don't worry, just check back for more details as I keep an eye on this potential. And again, those impacts would be primarily sometime around the 11th or 12th, 13th. It's a ways out from now still. I know your time is valuable. I don't want to take too much of it up, so I'll leave you here. And again, we do these videos every other day. You'll want to get the latest weather as our weather certainly becomes more active. And if you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the comments. I'm happy to answer you, and I'll be happy to see you right back here next time.